Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Portia Riley. I'm the Public Information Officer and Webinar Moderator today, and I'm joined by our Executive Director, Adria Berry, and our Director of Licensing, Adam Rogers. And today's topics include commercial licensing and legislation, but first I'll toss to them.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. So glad to have you here. This is our inaugural, our first ever Q&A webinar, Ask Us Anything webinar on commercial licensing and legislation. We were hoping to have a conference this fall. We've had to push that back. We're hoping to have that in January, but more details coming soon. But what we chose to do is just pivot and have this webinar so that you can ask us questions and we can give you guys some information. And we're really hopeful that this is helpful, but it's the first ever one, so give us some grace.
I'm just happy to be here and happy to answer any questions you may have.
And then before we start, I just want to note that we will not be speaking about metric due to ongoing hearings and a pending lawsuit against Oma. With that, the questions we've received about commercial licensing that you all submitted. Okay, Adam, how has the moratorium affected commercial licensing?
The moratorium has affected commercial licensing quite a bit. Leading up to the moratorium date, we received a little over 2,600 new applications. So that's going to slow down the processing times a little bit, but rest assured, we've already reallocated some resources to be sure that we continue to meet that 90 business day mandate.
And then someone had a question, what's the difference between a hazardous and non-hazardous processor license?
So on a hazardous processor license, you would need to submit a safety data sheet that has a rundown of all the hazardous chemicals that you're using to extract the THC. On a non-hazardous, you wouldn't be required to do that.
If a trust is named an owner, is each beneficiary named in the trust considered an owner for application purposes?
Yes, they would be.
And then lastly, what issues have you seen people run into during the process of obtaining a commercial license?
The most common mistakes are just not having all your paperwork up to date or complete. I would advise people to just be sure that you have all your documentation complete and you've gone through it a second time to be thorough before submitting your application.
And then is there anything else that you want to add?
You know, I'll say we know that Thintia had some issues last week and was down, so that definitely caused some problems during the licensing process. We are working with Thintia to make sure that does not happen again.
All right, thank you. And then we have some questions regarding legislation. One of them is, what's the transition process consisted of leading up to November 1 when Oma becomes an independent agency? And why is Oma becoming an independent agency important?
Man, it's an exciting time. It's very rare that you get to work on something like this from the ground up. So Oma becoming its own agency November 1st is a huge undertaking. We have a transition team that's working closely with OSDH, working with OMES and other state agencies that are helping us with our technology needs and getting all of our documents and files moved over so that on November 1st, we can just click that button and we will be our own agency. It's a big deal because this indicates to the industry, to licensees, to Oklahomans that Oma is the authority over the medical marijuana industry. So the buck stops with us. There's no, there are no excuses at this level. We are responsive to our licensees and to the people of Oklahoma.
And then what about other legislation passed that affects Oma? I know a lot of people want to know about the tiered licensing fee structure.
Yes, there was quite a bit of marijuana related legislation this past session, and I'll just give a highlight of a few of them. We have a great link on our website. If you go to the legislative updates portion of our website, you'll see a list of bills with a synopsis of each bill. And I want to give a highlight of just a few of them that I think you're most interested in, including the moratorium, and that is House Bill 2179. If you are a commercial licensee licensed by Oma right now, you do need to look at that bill because in June of 2023, your license fees may be going up. Depending on the size and type of your facility, your license fee may be increasing. For grows, it's going to range from $2,500 to up to $50,000, depending on the size and type. For processors, it'll be from $2,500 up to $40,000. Dispensaries, $2,500 up to $10,000 between those two, depending on the annual sales. And then testing labs will pay a flat fee of $20,000. I know that's a lot of information to take in, but you can look at House Bill 2179. We have a link on our website. Another piece of legislation that everyone's been talking about and Adam just discussed is House Bill 3208, which placed the moratorium into effect starting August 26th. That moratorium can last up to 2 years, depending on whether Oma has all inspections and investigations and licenses processed and everything done. But as of right now, it's set to end on August 1st, 2024. There was a bill that also requires outdoor growers to register as a sensitive crop with the Department of Ag. That's a helpful bill to ensure that your neighbors, if you're an outdoor grower, you want to make sure your neighbors know that you are growing cannabis on site so they can watch for that pesticide spray. Another one, Senate Bill 1511, if you are a grower and you are within 1,000 feet of a school, this bill would affect you if you get a license after the bill passed. That was an awkward way of saying it, but if you have a grow license before the bill passed, it doesn't affect you. But any new grow license was required to make sure they are not within 1,000 feet of a school. And the bill passed back in April, I believe, or it was early in session. But that's Senate Bill 1511 if you are a grower and you're wondering if that affects you. I would say those are the biggest ones. We have some lab standards coming. We have process validation coming. We have some time on those. The legislature gave us a runway, so we have until 2024 to promulgate rules and get those programs started. But there's a lot of exciting stuff coming.
Regarding the moratorium, I feel like this is one we get all the time. I know I've gotten it a lot, and I know you guys have gotten it too. What does Oma hope to accomplish during the moratorium?
Well, the legislature wants us to make sure that we complete all inspections, complete all investigations, and are able to truly do our due diligence on our licensees and take our time and ensure that anyone licensed by Oma is following our rules and regulations. And you know what? We are on track right now to make sure that we visit and inspect each commercial licensee at least once before December 31st, 2022. It's very exciting. This is the first time a lot of our licensees have ever met an Oma employee.
Exciting, exciting. Is there anything else that you guys want to add before we move on to the live Q&A?
I don't know that I have anything, so I'm interested in what questions are coming in.
All right, let's get right to it. These are questions submitted by you all. Again, thank you so much for submitting these questions. Okay, this one is for Adam. Do we have an update on real-time status updates about which days processors are on for license applications on the homepage?
Yes, for new applications, we're at 35 business days, and on renewal applications, we're at 31 business days.
And then to submit your questions, please use the Q&A function in Zoom and keep them coming in. Let's see what the next one is.
We'd also love to hear what you'd like to see on future webinars. That'd be a good thing to let us know as well. Adam, you're the new director of licensing. You took over that role just within the last few months.
That is correct, yes.
Tell me some of the big, or tell everyone some of the big projects you've been working on.
A lot of the big projects have obviously been with Pentia, our licensing vendor. We obviously are continuing to try and streamline the process and make it better for you guys.
And you're doing more trainings for your employees, staffing up your department properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're in the process of that. We just hired a new commercial manager, so to replace me.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be really good.
Great. And I know you've been working with our legal team closely to really dig into the rules, make sure that we are doing our due diligence and following those rules stringently. So I'm really proud of the progress in the licensing team.
Yes, thank you.
And then in regard to compliance, I know you mentioned the first time that some businesses have met an Oma employee. We're getting so close to reaching that 100% goal, and that's a huge thing for us here.
It is, absolutely, yes. Last August, when we started our hard reset at Oma, when I started digging in, I found out we'd only been on site and inspected maybe 10 to 15% of our licensees at that time. So we have a long way to go. We did have a long way to go. Right now, we're about 70%, 70 to 75%, I believe.
I think a lot of that contributes to staffing up as well in that
Absolutely.
department. I think they're doing a great job.
Yes, staffing, training properly, getting everyone out. They are making a lot of progress.
And then let's see if we have any updated questions.
Numbers on
So yeah, the numbers, just to go back for a moment, the numbers on the processing days are not on the homepage yet, but we're working with Intia to get that corrected, get that uploaded.
We need you guys to submit some more questions. Roll them in. Also, I hope you guys are all having a good day. What else?
Let's see. Well, I will talk about the Oma Ed Conference that's coming up while we're waiting for questions to come in.
Oh, no, that's exciting, definitely.
We're planning a conference, our first ever Oma Ed Conference, and it's going to be in January, mid-January. Hold tight. We will get all the dates and registration info out to you very soon. But the plan is to focus on educating licensees, patient licensees, commercial licensees, but also have programs for anyone interested in anyone that touches the industry. So that would include attorneys, law enforcement, physicians, other agencies. It's really exciting.
Do you feel like this conference will combat some of that misinformation that's out in regard to Oma and what we do?
Oh, absolutely. That's the goal. We want to get some good information out there. And ever since, I think all of us every day are told one of the biggest issues is our lack of communication. And so we're trying to over communicate, get as much as we can out there. And with the new team, it has been amazing, the transformation. But that last piece is really getting an education path going. And this conference will just kick that off.
And then talk about the plans to hold it in different spaces annually.
Yes, we're going to start it in Oklahoma City this year, but we want to move around the state in future years, have it in different regions.
Which is nice, gives more people access to the conference in their area versus being in one centralized location all the time. That's really cool. It's exciting. And then Adam, can you just talk about the licensing fees being instated next year again? Just kind of elaborate on that.
That will be part of House Bill 2179. The fees range from what they currently are, 2,500 to more than 50,000 for certain grows, but a lot of that really depends on the size of your grow. All the details of that, again, can be found in House Bill 2179.
Yeah, and when that bill goes into effect in June of 2023, there will be different licenses based on whether you have an indoor grow or an outdoor grow, and that's all written into that bill as well. So we will be preparing on our side with our vendors, with Intia, to make sure that we're prepared to accept applications in that manner at that time.
Right. Yep.
And then can an outdoor grow set up an indoor grow on the same license once the tiered license system takes effect?
Well, my understanding, and we'll have to, I want to look into that and get back to you before we give you a final answer. Since we do have a runway up till June, we have not dug in and started creating the Intia system yet. But my understanding is that an indoor and outdoor license are both required if you have both. We'll make sure to get you a clear answer though.
And then for you, Adria, of all dispensaries, how's Oma hitting the ground running for those illegally selling and not paying the MMJ tax or sales tax?
Illegally selling, so do you mean selling to people without licenses or selling out the back door? There are a lot of investigations going on, I'll say that. Same on the dispensaries that are not paying their taxes. The time to get away with those kind of things is coming to a very quick close. We are out there. Other state agencies are out there. Law enforcement is out there. So we're making great progress just getting out there, utilizing all of the resources we have to keep our eyes on those things.
And then talk about how the department kind of plays a role in combating those issues.
Well, we are a regulatory agency. We have a small law enforcement unit, our Office of Investigations and Enforcement. They have a big job for how small the unit is, but a big part of their job is to partner with county sheriffs across the state, with OB&DD, OSBI, other law enforcement. So the majority of our time is spent on the regulatory and administrative side, but we do have investigators that are out observing and investigating anytime criminal activity is alleged at one of our licensees.
And then for Adam, what solvents are considered hazardous for processing purposes?
So we follow the OSHA standards and guidelines. Whatever vendor you're using to obtain those chemicals will provide you a safety data sheet that will go over what is deemed hazardous.
And then what week of apps are you currently on?
As I previously stated, on new applications, we're at 35 business days. So I
New
believe,
commercial.
yes. So that is right around July 28th. So right around there.
Awesome. Let's see. You guys are starting to roll in the questions now. Keep them coming. Let's see. Coming. While we're waiting for more questions, I know you mentioned the partnerships with interagencies. Talk about how important those are for Oma.
Oh man, it's been a huge game changer having relationships with agencies like DEQ. They monitor and regulate the environmental side of all industry in Oklahoma, along with their federal partners, the EPA. So working with DEQ, working with the OBNDD, the Water Resources Board and the rural water districts, those have opened our eyes to issues going on across the state and helped us understand areas that we need to make sure that we are giving our licensees more resources and information. We want to help educate. We want to work with those other agencies to educate our licensees. And we've put a checklist on the website. I believe it's up now, but we put a checklist for commercial licensees. Is that up?
Mhm.
Great. And that is a product of those interagency working groups. So we've worked with the fire marshal, the attorney general's office, more and more. But our goal is to give our licensees a checklist to go through and say, okay, Oma is not your final stop. You've also got to have registrations from your county, your city, possibly, depending on where you are. Fire marshal needs to come look at your place, things like that.
And then we've got some more questions. What if a beneficiary named in a trust is under 25?
Unfortunately, our rules state that a person under the age of 25 cannot be listed as an owner on a commercial license.
And then can you define an indoor grow versus an outdoor grow? And then is a greenhouse indoor?
That is something we're going to have to look into further at this time, but we will have a distinction between those before the June time period.
And then for Adria, are there license penalties for not operating in metric?
Yes, yes. At this point, if you have inventory on site, you have to be in metric. And there are penalties. We're conducting administrative hearings pretty consistently. I don't want to say too much about metrics since I know we are limited on what we can say.
Correct. Again, we're not speaking too much on metric due to those ongoing hearings and then that pending lawsuit against Oma.
Yeah, and between now and June of 2023, those questions that are coming in about indoor versus outdoor, greenhouse, all of that, we are doing the pre-work to be prepared to give you that information. We just don't have it all set and legally reviewed yet, but you will have all that information at your fingertips far before you need it next June. Please send your questions. We just had an error on our side. We're back. We want to take those questions, but we need you to send them again. I need to clarify something that I said earlier. When asked about metric, I was thinking of our written inventory reports, so I answered it a little bit incorrectly, and I want to clarify. All active licensees, if you are licensed by Oma, you must be a metric, whether you have inventory on hand or not. Okay, if you are medical marijuana and medical marijuana products must be tracked in metric. Licensees cannot accept medical marijuana or medical marijuana products unless it is tracked in metric. So I wanted to clarify that. The zero inventory piece is where if you don't have inventory, you still have to be in metric, but you submit a zero inventory report. So that's the clarification. Have some of the other questions come in?
Yes, we have a couple, so I will hop right into those. How will our business information such as SOPs be protected once submitted with a license renewal?
Okay, that's a good question. Just like any of the other information as part of the application, that is protected through confidentiality laws, and we abide by that.
And then what is the average time for the new system to process and reject applications that do not have all requirements?
Currently, we're at 35 business days on new commercial applications and 31 business days for renewal business applications. I do see, especially on the new queue, I think that timeframe will go up a little bit, but like I said earlier, we've already reallocated some resources to be sure we always meet that 90 business day mandate.
Any tips for folks?
Just double check your work and make sure that all the documentation is correct and completed before you resubmit your application.
And then just talk about how much time that saves.
That can save a lot of time. From a licensing processing perspective, it's much easier to approve an application if everything is there and complete than to take the time to identify everything that's incorrect and take the time to reject it and send it back to you. And when it is rejected, you get that notification through your email. It's the email that's listed as your primary contact email. And once you log into the system, you will see those rejection reasons.
All right. And again, guys, keep resubmitting your questions. We apologize again. We lost a lot of those questions that came in and we do want to answer them. So again, please resubmit your questions.
Yeah.
We'll wait for some of those to roll in.
And thanks for your patience with us. We are learning lessons from this one that will carry forward on future webinars. On future webinars, I know we're going to address a lot of the compliance questions that we saw coming in. So if you have a question about inspections, what an inspection entails, if you have specific questions about our compliance laws and rules and regulations, we will have a future webinar on that. Today, we are focusing on the commercial licensing process, on any questions regarding legislation that just passed in the 22 session. We'll take questions about the transition if anybody's interested in that, transition to standalone agency. But just wanted to put that out there. We have several future webinars in mind that are going to bring some great information.
And again, just thank you for your patience. This is our first one, so we appreciate the grace. We do have a question that just came in. How does the Lmma communicate with licensees regarding their application?
We will notify them via email. Is the email that's listed as your primary contact email. There's a standard message that goes out that says your application's either been approved or rejected. If it's been rejected, once you log into the Thentia system, it will open up that application. It will show you those rejection reasons right there on the left-hand side.
And remember, that's your primary contact email in Thentia, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And then just again, a reminder, I know some questions are coming in regarding metric. We're not talking about metric due to ongoing litigation.
But feel free to look at our seed to sale page. Our seed to sale metric website has an FAQ document that you can search. You can do Control F and search for any term and see if your question was answered there. But you also can call metric, call our call center. We have lots of resources out there, and hopefully you're all doing those metric learn portals to continue your training on how to utilize metric.
And then with that FAQ sheet, about 90% of the questions we get surrounding metric are on that sheet. A lot of the questions I get asked are answered on that sheet. All right, we got another one. If I have questions about my application, what help would you guys be able to answer my questions faster? Like what kind of information do you guys need?
So maybe questions on a pending renewal.
Yeah, like
It seems like they're wondering how to get in
Like what-
touch with us.
What would help us answer their questions faster on their end? Like, what would they need for us to be able to help them sooner, quicker?
As long as you're listed as a person of interest or a primary contact on the application, we can answer it. You can call our call center. You can contact Oma at Oma Communications. If you've ever received an email from me, you can call me or email me. And we will get the answer for you just as quickly as we can.
Which actually reminds me that we have a very exciting, in my opinion, but I'm a nerd, exciting thing on our website now, and it's a contact form that goes directly to the departments to answer. So it's a really great resource for you.
Definitely. Okay, for Adria, how does the OMMA work with law enforcement?
How do we work with law enforcement? We, well, as I talked about earlier, if you were on earlier, we do have a small law enforcement unit within Oma. They help investigate any criminal activity or any activity that violates our rules and regulations on the administrative and regulatory side that we can utilize for administrative hearings, or we can work with DAs on. The primary goal is for us to focus on crimes being committed at Oma licensed locations. And so when we receive information about that, we connect with other law enforcement agencies around the state, whether it's local or state law enforcement. And if nobody else is looking into it, we start our investigation. If they're looking into it, we join in and just help however we can.
And for those who missed it, how helpful is it to have those partnerships?
It's been a tremendous help, and we've received, we've just been able to pick up the phone and call other law enforcement agencies across the state, and they pick up the phone and call us now, which sounds simple, but building relationships is key. And so it's really helped us know what's going on across the industry and place a focus on anyone who's attempting to remain in the illicit market or sell medical marijuana illegally. It's really helped us to be able to work together to focus on that, to ensure that our licensees are set up for success.
And then for Adam, do you know what caused the outage last week?
Yes, we were told by our licensing vendor that there were some issues with some servers. Then that's what caused the outage, that they didn't have a lot of notification that that would happen or occur. But they've already ensured us that they've working with a plan so that it will not happen again.
Yeah, and we put an internal plan in place too, basically like a disaster plan,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're ready. We absolutely did not expect that to happen, but now that we know it was something that could happen, we are ready if it does happen again. It's back to working normal, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right, keep your questions rolling in. With that plan, do you have any of the processes as far as how we would address that next time? If there was a next time?
Yes.
Hopefully not.
We have technology experts on staff that can speak to that better than I can. We can send out that information though, and would be happy to get that info out. Yeah, it's technical. It's a technical plan.
Without going into too much detail, I will say that one of our main goals was to get a process to make sure that Oma Verify is still available for you guys, even if there's an outage with the licensing system.
And then how many people does the OMMA have processing applications?
So for commercial applications, we have right around 12. And for patient applications, we have somewhere right around 17 or 18. But as I stated earlier, we are reallocating some resources and we're looking to hire some more processors very soon.
And then does that number change depending on time of the year?
No.
Yeah, and that number, it sounds like we've got a good number right now since you're staying well below the 90 business day requirement.
Yeah.
Which is the mandate in the law for us. So
Right.
it's great.
Right, I think we have another question coming in soon. All right, so if there are not any more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Recordings will be available on our website and YouTube. Again, thank you guys for joining us and granting us that grace in our first webinar. We appreciate it more than you know. And if you have any further questions, just get in touch with us and then stay in touch or stay up to date on our website for the next webinar and what it'll consist.
Yes, yes, we have some great ideas for future webinars, so we look forward to doing this again and learning the lessons from this one. And thanks for joining us for this first one. Let us know your ideas also for what we could talk about in the future that you're interested in.
We promise the next one will be smoother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.